Okay, if you are learning Spanish, you have almost certainly hit a wall. A very, very specific wall. It's called the preterite versus the imperfect. Seriously, it's one of the biggest stumbling blocks on the road to fluency. And today, we are going to take it apart piece by piece.
And this is where it all begins, right? This quote from a totally frustrated learner on Reddit, it perfectly captures that feeling of confusion. You think you get it, but then, the practice exercises come back just covered in red ink. It really feels like you're missing some kind of secret key.
You've probably been there. You memorize all the charts, you try those little tricks like translating it to did versus was doing, but then it feels like both could fit, like half the time. It's such a shared struggle, and it just goes to show that the simple tricks, they're not enough.
So why does this happen? Well, to find the solution, we've got to first understand why the common advice so often lets us down. Turns out, the rules themselves are actually a big part of the problem.
Now, this is probably one of the most popular rules you'll hear. The imperfect sets the scene, it's the background music, while the preterite is for the main actions that push the story forward. It sounds so logical, kind of elegant, right? Seems like a great tool to have.
But this is what happened when that same learner tried to use that rule. It completely backfired. Their scores actually got worse. And this is a really crucial point. When a rule creates more confusion than clarity, it's not a good rule. It means we need a totally new way of looking at this.
And check this out. Research by Diana Franson actually gives a name to this problem. She calls them half-truths. These are the textbook rules that are only true some of the time, which, makes them incredibly unreliable. They give you this false sense of confidence right before they lead you straight off a cliff.
So what are some of these half-truths? Well, you've probably heard them. Things like imperfect is always for emotions, or it's for repeated actions, and the big one, that certain trigger words are absolute unbreakable laws. They're not. They're more like well-intentioned but honestly deeply flawed advice.
So if the old rules are broken, what's the answer? It's not about memorizing more exceptions. It is about a fundamental shift in how you see the problem.
This quote from another Reddit user just nails it. The secret isn't in the action itself, it's all about the speaker's intention. It's about how you choose to frame the past. Are you presenting it as a finished, done deal, or as something that was in progress?
This whole concept actually has a grammatical name. Aspect. Think of it like the camera lens you, the speaker, use to look at a past event. It's not about what happened, but about whether you're focusing on its beginning and end, or just viewing it as an ongoing scene.
Okay, so let's just throw out all those half-truths and replace them with one single, powerful metaphor. Think of the preterite as a snapshot, a single framed photo of a moment that's over. The imperfect, on the other hand, is like a video. It shows the ongoing action, the background scene, the process of something happening. Okay, let's put this snapshot versus video idea to the test. We're going to apply it to the exact sentences that stumped our original learner and see if it gives us the clarity the old rules just couldn't. All right, here we go. Problem sentence number 1. Diego was brushing his teeth when he hurt himself. So the verbs are cepillaba, imperfect, and lastimó, preterite. But why?
Using our new framework, it becomes crystal clear. Brushing his teeth was the ongoing action. That's the video that was playing. Hurting himself, that was the sudden single event that interrupted it. That's the snapshot. You've got the video in the background and the snapshot right in the foreground.
Let's try another one. The patient was sleeping when they gave him an injection. Here we've got dormía, imperfect, and pusieron, preterite. And again, the logic just holds up perfectly. The sleeping is the background video. It sets the entire scene. It was already happening. The injection is the snapshot, a specific completed action that happened while that video was playing. And let's do one more. Sofia and Jose were going to the wedding, but they got sick. The verbs here are iban, imperfect, and enfermaron, preterite.
By now, you can probably see the pattern. We're going is the video. That journey was in progress, there was no specific end in sight. They got sick is the snapshot, that single event that just cut the video short. It's simple, it's intuitive, and it's consistent.
So what do we do with all those trigger words we were told to memorize? Well, we don't just throw them away, we reframe them. They aren't rules, they are clues. Words like ayer, yesterday, or una vez, one time, they strongly hint at a snapshot. And words like siempre, always, or todos los días, every day, they suggest a video. See, They support the framework, they don't replace it.
So now we have a much better framework. But a framework all by itself isn't going to get you to fluency. So what's the final crucial step?
The overwhelming consensus from people who've been there, experienced speakers and learners, is this. Frameworks get you started, but it's immersion that gets you across the finish line. You have to see and hear these tenses used in context over and over and over again until making the choice just becomes second nature.
So this is your new game plan. First, you've got to internalize that snapshot versus video mindset. Second, use those trigger words as helpful hints, not as these rigid laws. Third, and this is the most important one, you have to read and listen to Spanish stories. Just let your brain soak up the patterns naturally. This is how you build true intuition.
Because at the end of the day, the goal is not to be a walking grammar textbook who can just recite a bunch of rules. The goal is to develop a feel for the language, to instinctively know which tense captures the specific flavor of the memory you want to share.
So, think of it this way. The snapshot versus video framework is your new, much more reliable map. But the real adventure, the journey to fluency, that only happens when you step out and actually start exploring the language. So the only question left is, are you ready?